When you're watching a series or what we call, seasonal movie down here in Nigeria, and they do what they call a crossover. Now, for those of you that don't know what a crossover is, so a crossover is, let's say there is an original series, and then from that series comes a spin-off. Now, in between the original series and a spin-off, some of the stories, intertwine. Let me use a recent example. I know a lot of you must have seen Power. Now, we all know Power and we all watch how Ghost died. And then Power had about 4 or 3 spin-offs. You have Power Book 2 Ghost. You have Power Book 3, Force, right? That's the one that had the old Tommy Egan and all of that. Now, but when they started doing Power Book 2 Ghost, we saw that there was a time where Tommy had to come into the series to come and, talk to Tariq and, help Tariq. Now, that's like a cross, over. It also played out for those of you that were watching The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, those 3, you understand what I mean by crossover. Now, this episode is titled the crossover episode. I'll be doing the Cha-Cha Let's Talk Music series and also the Cha-Cha album review series all together in one episode. And I'm not going to be doing it alone. I have 2 of my brothers with me in the compound. And one of them will be joining us when we get towards, the Cha-Cha album review series. And one of them is going to be with us from the beginning, which is going to be the Cha-Cha Let's Talk Music series.
They say music is life, so I give them the Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast. Turned up the volume, gave them the time of their lives. They said they wanted new artists, I gave them the Cha-Cha Spotlight series. They wanted deep music conversations, I plugged them into the Cha-Cha Let's Talk Music series. They are crazy about the hit makers, so I hit them with the Cha-Cha Hit Makers series. And for the albums I know they shouldn't miss, I blessed them with the Cha-Cha Album Review series. I created the Cha-Cha EP Compilation series, so they will have a taste of the best of EPs. They should tell their friends. You should let your family know. We should let everyone who cares about African music know. Afisanova is back in the game, and you can catch me every Saturday amplifying the African sounds by bringing the best of African music to your ears. I am your musical plug, the creator of the Energy Force, and this is the Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast.
Hello, Cha-Cha gang, it's OddFelix. OddFelix, ODDFELIX. The O is small letter and the F is capital letter because Felix is my birth name and the Odd is just the word from the dictionary. I'm a rapper, I'm a podcaster, I'm a writer, I'm a blogger, I'm a graphic designer.
Thank you very much for being, on the podcast. Odd, I really do, appreciate you doing this. We have 3 artists that have put out a deluxe version of their album. We have Rema, we have Ckay, and we also have Omah Lay. But before we get to talk about, what the deluxe version sounds like, what it does not sound like, and blah, 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 can you please explain to those that are listening, for those that don't know, what is the difference between an album and a deluxe version of the album? And also tell us why, some of these artists will decide to put out a deluxe version of their album rather than putting out a new album in general, or even putting out an EP.
What's a deluxe album? A deluxe album is... Okay, this is what happens when a deluxe album is made. So there's already an existing album, and then the artist takes an EP worth of songs. An EP is a project of between 4 to 7 songs that spans anywhere between 10 to 25 minutes. 4 to 7 songs, 10 to 25 minutes. So the artist takes an EP worth of songs, so that's between 4 to 7 songs, and then adds to the album. It's possible that the deluxe may not have up to 4 songs or may not be up to 10 songs, but I'm just trying to give you a general definition. There could be tweaks here and there, breaking rules and stuff like that. But the general idea is that, okay, so this artist takes an EP worth of songs and adds to an already released album. Yeah. Many artists have actually dropped deluxe versions of albums, but did not call it deluxe versions of album. They came up with their own names for it and stuff like that. One of my favorite artists of all time, Ckay. So Ckay dropped his mixtape recently, Church Clothes 4. And he dropped the deluxe. But the deluxe wasn't called Church Clothes 4. It was called Church Clothes 4 Dry Clean Only. Now there are several reasons why people drop deluxe albums. In many scenes, albums are built of certain ideas, right? Albums have themes they are built around most times. So let's say, for example, I build an album around the theme of love, do a couple of nice love songs, relationships and stuff like that. And when I'm done with my album of 14 songs, I go on to create about 4 or 5 new songs about love, right? Now, instead of creating a new love album, there's just the thought of why not include it in the previous album so it still preserves the same theme. So these songs are afterthoughts. They weren't there when the original idea of the album was conceived, right? But then now you get to see them being added to the album to form the deluxe version. So another reason people drop deluxe is to put the album afresh. So maybe I dropped this album and did not get the kind of response to the album I expected, right? So maybe I expected that, okay, this album was going to be listened to by 100,000 people, and then I dropped the album and only 30,000 people listened to it. I didn't meet my target, right? Because I didn't have the influence to pull that. So a couple of months down the line, I get a record deal, and now I have the influence to actually achieve my goal. So I don't necessarily need to go for a new album when I have this album that I want to reach more years, right? I can re-release the album as a deluxe and just add a couple more songs to it. So that way I still get to drop a new project, I still get to drop my new songs, and I still get to promote the old album. Now in this case, the songs don't necessarily have to match the theme of the original album, right? Because the aim here is to promote it. The songs are not afterthought. The songs are their own songs that I just want to use to promote the older albums. Yeah. Yeah, so that's that. So to promote an old album, I could choose to drop a deluxe version of that album. Now, another reason some people drop deluxe versions of albums is to chart better, right? Now, what you know is that nowadays, albums are not charting based on sales alone. The streaming equivalents of the sales are considered, right? So now, if I drop an album and I have, say, 50,000 sales in a week, and that week I'm somewhere, let's say on the US Billboard charts, for example, I'm somewhere around number 30, right? Now, dropping a deluxe album means more songs. More songs means more streams, right? And more songs means more sales. And more sales and more streams means better positions on the charts. So, since my album couldn't get above 30, releasing a deluxe is an easy way to get above 30, because when I release a deluxe, all the streams of the normal album are counted in the deluxe, along with the streams and the sales for the new ones. So it's like I'm combining both my old the strength from my old album and the strength of the new album. Okay, let me just try to put it in perspective. So I have an album, and the album is called Cha-Cha Podcast, right? So when Cha-Cha Podcast drops, it gets, after the album drops, it gets an average of, say, 20,000 sales weekly. An average of 20,000 sales weekly. And 20,000 sales weekly cannot put me higher than, let's say, number 30 on the Billboard chart, right? But I want to get higher. I want to be seen more. I want to be rated better. So what will I do with Cha-Cha Podcast? I'll drop a deluxe version of Cha-Cha Podcast, right? Now, when I drop the deluxe, because of the new songs, more people are going to listen to it. The people that are listening to the old song will still listen to it. So now, instead of rating my album at 20,000 sales, which is the normal one for the weekly stuff, because of these new songs I have, counting the new sales, counting the new streams of this song, I may have up to 30,000 streams that week and going forward. Now, that might place me somewhere up to maybe in the top 20 on the Billboard charts. So I've achieved a higher rank without necessarily stressing myself much, just releasing new songs and that straight up the old one to back them up. So deluxe versions are like, there are many other reasons people drop deluxe versions. It could just be that I don't have power to do a new album, but I want my songs to be in a proper project, so I'll drop a deluxe version for it. There are many other reasons, but I think these 3 reasons are some of the most popular reasons, I think, why people drop deluxe versions of albums.
I'm not even going to lie, you've done brilliantly well in explaining this, and because I mean I wanted you to explain this because I know there are a lot of people out there that don't know why artists release deluxe album. Some people don't even understand what a deluxe album is. The honest truth is a lot of us don't know the difference between what a deluxe album is and what an original album is, or why are they even dropping a deluxe album. I, for one, it took me a long time before I know what a deluxe album stands for. And in as much as you've explained all of this, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a big fan of the idea of a deluxe album. Now, when I understood what deluxe album means, the only reason why I feel like artists used to drop deluxe album, for me, is one of the reasons why you mentioned. For me, I used to feel like the only reason why they drop deluxe is because the album no just sell. So they just find way to push the album, say it must sell, or the album no blow, and they just want to make sure say the album blow. So maybe they drop one single after the album, and they see say, oh, this single don't blow. Oh yeah, add and put out to the album, call am deluxe, pep. And that's just, again, like I said, that's just what I've always feel when I hear people saying they are dropping a deluxe album. I would rather you, and this is just my own personal opinion, yeah, I would rather you just drop an EP or just drop a new project entirely, right? And let's just move on. This album, we don't hear them, sweet, I be sweet, leave them like that. Whatever thing you're trying to do next, do a new album or do a new EP or even do a mixtape and all of that, and let's know what we are doing. But I've never really been a fan of deluxe. I know that as much as 2023 is concerned, Rema, talking about Ckay, and talking about what's his name right now?
Omah Lay.
Omah Lay, yes. Now, these three artists released their albums over a year ago, and they are now releasing the deluxe version 1 year after. So before we go into what the deluxe version sounds like and what it does not sound like, let me just ask you this. Is there like a time frame for you to release a deluxe album? Like, because for me now, if you ask me in my mind, I feel like after 1 year, Baba, move on now. What are you doing? Just put out another album or put out another EP. Cheer on the top. Like,
yeah, I get a point.
So is there like a time frame, or they can always come back and come after 10 years and say I'm releasing a deluxe album of my debut album? I don't know if that makes sense. Have you ever, I think
this is a trend among American artists, right? After they drop an album and then many years later, like say 10 years or 15 years later, they will now release that album with new songs and call it 15 years anniversary edition or 10 years anniversary. Have you seen something like that online before?
I have. I mean, Eminem did that. Eminem did that with, I think, is the Eminem show. The Eminem show album. Yeah. We did the 20 years anniversary. I've seen some couple of stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think as a recording artist, keyword recording artist, the height of whatever you can create is an album. As a recording artist, not as a performing artist. As a recording artist, the height of what you can create is an album. So I think the aim is just to create buzz around the album. Anything that can help improve this album's chances at success. Anything that can help boost these albums. It doesn't matter if the album was dropped 1 month ago, if it was dropped 60 years ago. As long as, there's an opportunity to promote this album again, I think it's a chance any artist should jump on. Any artist have to jump on as a recording artist. Keyword again, recording artist. That's the focus here. So the deluxe is just there's the album, right? Do everything possible to promote the album. 2 months later, if you have new songs, do a deluxe. 10 years later, you don't remember I mentioned that you don't have to call it a deluxe. You can always come up with a creative name for it. 10 years later, come up with a new name, do this thing. 15 years later, if you as you keep going, you keep having new projects, new albums, new all of that. So there will always be new opportunities to promote these different albums. I mean, like Eminem have other albums outside of the Eminem show, but 15 years matched with the Eminem show. So that's a good chance to actually release this album. Whenever you get a good chance as a recording artist to promote a project, no matter how old it is, you have to jump on it. Because that's like, as a recording artist, the album is like the height of your success as a recording artist. The album is like the height of the project. It's like if there's a scale of projects, the album is like at the top of it. Yeah, so
Okay. Thank you very much for clearing that up for me. And one other reason why artists also release a deluxe version of their album is also for awards nomination and stuff like that. There might be an award coming through and they feel like when they release the original version of the album, maybe it didn't meet the time frame of the award, and they might feel the album is worth getting nominated. So they also decide to, let's add 2 or 3 songs to this album and let's just, so that it can make nomination, from the album. Another case study would be Made in Lagos by Wizkid, which had a deluxe version and, was submitted for the Grammy nomination and, stuff like that. So, yeah.
What is in the pond? Keep listening to Cha Music Review Podcast by Afisto Nova. Do not turn it down.
Now, let us go into the Cha album review series of this episode. And to join us on this series, I'll be having my brother once more that has been here on so many occasions, and he'll be here to join us. Hello, Jerry Abe. What's up? How are you doing?
Yo, my brother, I'm okay.
I mean, like I said, Jerry is a regular on this podcast, so there's no even need for any intro. There's no need for any introduction at all.
Co-host.
Yes. So, all right. So, we'll be talking about the deluxe version of Omah Lay, Boy Alone album. We'll also be talking about Sad Romance by Ckay, the deluxe version also. And we'll also be talking about Rave and Rose Ultra, which is also the deluxe version of Rema's debut album, Rave and Roses. Rema dropped his original album on the 25th of March 2022. And then on the 28th of April 2023, he decided to drop the deluxe version, also known as the Rave and Roses Ultra, and he added 5 new tracks. Now, these 5 new tracks also included world famous titled Calm Down remix, which features Selena Gomez. Now, as for Omah Lay's first album or debut album, which is titled The Boy Alone, was released on the 15th of July 2022, and then the deluxe version was released on the 13th of June 2023. So that was like almost a year. And then you have Ckay also. Ckay released Sad Romance, which is his debut album, September 23, 2022 rather. And then June 16, 2023, he also released his deluxe version. So let me start with Jerry. Now, let's start with Omah Lay's version of the deluxe album. Omah Lay had 5 songs. He had Reasons, he had Come Closer, he had It Is Yours, he had Imagine, and he had Joanna. So I'm going to ask you these questions. In all of those 5 songs that you listened to, which one would you say were your favorites and why?
Okay, I'll pick just one favorite. First off, I must start with this statement. I think Davido made this statement some time ago. I think Wizkid also made a statement some time ago, if I'm not mistaken, that the future of Afrobeat is actually in safe hands. And with what this guy is actually pulling out, I can actually say the same thing, that the future of Afrobeat is actually in safe hands. Boy Alone Deluxe version was like, I felt that album on a whole different level, to be very honest. And from the 5 added tracks, the one that actually got to me the most, and which is like my favorite, is still Reason. Simply because I still can feel, I don't know, whoever broke Omah Lay's heart, I don't know what that person must have done, but I could literally, in the song, I could feel his pains in the song, the way he expressed himself. Like, he was literally vulnerable. That's just it. Joanna is not bad. Come Close. I think Come Closer, right? Not bad, but if I'm to go, like a go-go for me every day, every time, is Reason.
For me personally, I think Joanna was the song that when I was listening to it, I had to listen to Joanna twice. Like, first of all, shout out to Semzi for the production of that, song. That production alone was insane. It was brain bursting, and Omah Lay once again, sang out his out on that song. Now, I'm going to go to you with this different question and it's something that I've been saying very well on Twitter, where they talk about Omah Lay and they tag his song or his music or his sound as Afro depression. Now, I don't know if that is a thing because myself, I just hear for the first time. And you know the way it is in Nigeria or the way it is in this our music industry, we always want to put Afro in front of everything. We have Afro beats, we have Afro hip hop, we have Afro this, Afro that. So my question is this: if you are saying Omah Lay's song is Afro depression, so the first question is there anything like Afro depression? Like, what sound is called a depression sound? Or people are just making that up to give it, you know, maybe because that's what they can relate with, or that's because that is the message that his music, you know, is relating. But is there really anything like Afro depression as a sound?
Okay. There is nothing like Afro depression. But I'm going to explain this now before I say anything more. Now, words have meanings, right? And we live by words, so we have to adapt to these meanings. We have to take these meanings for what they are. But then occasionally we have to invent new words to capture new things that we can't capture already existing words. And it happens a lot with genres of music, right? So Burna Boy says his music is Afrofusion. We have a new set of Christian artists in Nigeria say their music is Afro gospel. People will always invent all of these things. Now, whether it actually becomes a thing or not is largely based on its relevance as time goes on, right? So I'll try to give some examples of something now. Let's use the word. Let's use pop, for example. Pop just means popular music, but now it's identified with a particular kind of sound because this sound was popular enough to claim the meaning for itself. So the sound of Miley Cyrus and Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber are now the pop guys, but then the people who rap on a different kind of beats are known as hip-hop artists, even though they are even as popular as these pop guys. Right now, let's use hip hop now as in that case study. So hip hop has its kind of beats and pattern, and people rap on it and stuff like that, right? And then over time, some kind of rappers starts doing funny rap, and now we know them as meme rappers, right? But then they are just rapping. Genres are based on a lot of things. It's based on the style of. It's based on the speed of the beat, the lyrical content, and it's based on the speed of the beat, the lyrical content, the style, and the niche. So, outside of the main genres we have, if we are to classify Omah Lay's music, it is Afrobeats. If he wants to create a niche for himself, which I don't think he's trying to do, I think it's people that are trying to force a niche on him. If he's trying to create a niche for himself, it can only become a thing if it's able to stay relevant over time. So what's this niche about? Okay, is this music supposed to be depressing and it's supposed to have elements from West Africa, right? So that's Afro depression, right? Other artists jumping on this stream, are you going to keep releasing songs on this niche? 2 years from now, is anybody going to talk about Afro depression? If it's not going to have that kind of I don't know if the right word is longevity, then it's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not going to survive. I think it's just a word that was coined up because people began to assign a certain kind of emotion with him. But then let's go back a bit. I don't think his first EP, I don't think anybody can classify it as Afro depression. I don't think his second EP can be classified as whatever they're calling Afro depression. So are you going to build a niche over just what one album represents?
I mean, I like the fact that you categorically said that there is nothing like Afro depression. I just wanted to, clear that out there. Unless you guys are just trying to create it for the first time and you are wanting to make it stick, then maybe we'll have another artist that will come out in 2027 and say they are doing Afro depression. Then no wahala. Now, whether it is Afro depressing or it is not depressing, the question I want us to round up with Omah Lay's deluxe album is this. With these new 5 songs that were added to the album, would you say that these 5 songs have made the quality of the original album better, or it didn't really do much?
100% an improvement, man. It's an improvement. I enjoyed all the new songs. I've not really like eaten them enough to be able to dissect them, but for the listening value, I actually enjoyed them more than the original songs in the album. So I'll say yes, definitely an improvement.
The next song we're talking about is Ckay's Sad Romance. Ckay, like I also said, Ckay released a deluxe version of his own Sad Romance, and he had about 5 songs also. And in one of those songs, he features techno. There's also another song whereby he featured Black Bones. There's also another song called Captured My Soul, which also features Joe Boy. Jerry, let's ask you this. In your own opinion now, you feel like this deluxe version, the new songs they added made the album much better, or just there?
Somewhere, somehow, I feel I don't think the album actually moved forward to me. It was just still there, but then I could still feel the Ckay vibe. Perhaps I'll say because of my favorite track that actually made it to the deluxe version, which is Hallelujah featuring Black Bones. Yeah, that song is like a go-go for me. So aside that, I just feel the deluxe version is just still there and wasn't really, really needed, if you ask me.
Now we are going to round up the conversation with the last song, which is Rave and Roses. And I don't even know if we should talk about this one much, because I mean,
don't deny me a chance to share this beautiful story.
No. The reason why I'm saying this,
the good thing about Rema is if we have to start Rema's talk, I'm not sure we'll finish this night, but I don't know.
That's my point.
Keep me out of the Rema discussion, but I need to share this story.
No, definitely you'll be in the conversation, because the question I want to ask you is this. I mean,
okay,
because the basic point of what I'm asking is all these new songs that have been added to the album. I've been asking so far, did they make the album sound better? Did they make the album feel better? But when you get to Rave and Roses from Rema, just one song alone don't already make the album perform more than what it was performing.
Baby,
so I think that already answers the whole question. That's why I said I don't think we'll have to say much about Rema. But then again, let me allow you to have the floor. Say what you have to say about that.
I think the deluxe of Rave and Roses was definitely a good idea, and it wasn't just Calm Down, right? That I think helped the deluxe version of the album. I think other songs like Holiday also contributed to helping that, and Rema is having a shine right now. So by the way, whenever Rema sees Selena Gomez, you should kneel down and kiss her feet. That girl has done a lot for him in this life by jumping on that song. So I think it was definitely a good idea. I listened to the deluxe only once, so I did, and it was more like passive listening. I was working, I'm writing an article and listening to the album, so it's not really sinking in. I listened to most music like that recently, but yeah, it was a good idea. And I'm done. Yeah, thank you.
Jerry, Rave and Roses, the Ultra, which song? Yeah. We already know that Calm Down, Don't Blow everywhere. The song is not coming down. That's the thing about the song. But what other song will you say, also stood out for you on the deluxe version?
First off, I really say this. In as much as Rema is a great guy in the music industry as we speak, and he is actually a force to reckon with currently as far as the music industry in Africa as a whole is concerned. I honestly do not feel the need for a deluxe version for Rave and Roses. The reason because the song, like, I think No, I'm not that thing. I'm actually a huge fan of deluxe albums, but I feel generally, so far so good. I've not, aside Omah Lay's Boy Alone Deluxe album, I don't think I've been impressed with the rest of the deluxe that have really come out so far. You get Rave and Rose's Ultra album was just I don't think it should have done a deluxe to that album. Calm Down remix is literally a hit, no doubt. And it actually came out even right before the deluxe. That particular song and Holiday, these are literally two songs that blew the deluxe version up, if you ask me. And these are literally songs that should have actually gone as a single, or perhaps, yes, the remix with Selena Gomez should have probably stood out as a single. Holiday should have probably been kept, if you ask me, should have probably been kept for his next album. But if you're talking about Nigerian artists diving into deluxe version right now, then I think if one person should stand out from, I think one person that should even dive into deluxe version, aside Whiskey that actually dropped Made in Lagos, the deluxe version, then another person I know that would have probably done perhaps super excellent in deluxe should have been Ckay. But that shows his own creativity from his own end. At least I think in a year, Ckay came out with Mr. Money with the Vibe, and now he's out with Work of Art. Two different albums, so much content. You understand that perhaps it could be sent beats or kind of, but we could literally see Ckay's creativity in less than 2 years in the music industry. Rema's been there before Ckay and likes of others. So if I thought he wanted to do a deluxe, I think I expected more. From Rema. In as much as he's doing great at the moment, I think his deluxe version was just there to me, and I expected more.
So just to wrap all of this up, I'm going to ask both of you one question, and I just want to be a very short answer. Now, listening to these 3 Deluxe albums all together, which one would you say is your favorite? Let me start with Jerry.
My favorite definitely will be Boy Alone. Boy Alone Deluxe.
Right. Okay. What about you, Odd?
Boy Alone, baby.
Boy Alone too.
Yeah, Boy Alone.
Okay. All right. No problem. If you have to ask me generally which one is going to be my own, I'll say maybe just leave all the album alone.
I was expecting that.
But yeah, on the more serious note, if I'm also to pick, I think I enjoyed Boy Alone more. And I think I joined Boy Alone more. So that's also going to be my favorite among all the top 3. And also, just to mention, I think Ewiga also released the deluxe version of his The Lost Boy. He also did that. Yeah, he also did that. So that's that's another deluxe that I felt was not necessary. But it do am none here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and members of the Chacha Nation, with that, I have come to the end of the Chacha crossover series. Who knows? This might just be the beginning of so many crossovers, and this might just be the only crossover you can ever tell. But come your way with another episode of your award-winning podcast, Chacha Music Review Podcast. My name will always remain Afisto Nova, aka your musical plug, the creator of the Energy Force. Remember, in whatever you do, keep the energy, keep it 100, and keep it positive. Peace out.
Cha-cha time, 2 time for the Cha-cha gang. Give me the Cha-cha gang. Rockin' with the best, the Cha-cha gang. Give me the Cha-cha gang. Alayela with Cha-cha gang. Give me the Cha-cha gang. What's in my body, Cha-cha gang. Give me the Cha-cha gang. Cha-cha gang. What's in my body?